So now that Republicans are in control of the House, what can we expect? It's investigations all the time. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So after the painful process that finally resulted in Kevin McCarthy being elected Speaker of the House, what did Republicans do? Well, they certainly didn't address any substantive issues, like addressing the debt limit, for example. Instead, what they did is they started their investigations. Because after all, the Republican Party nowadays is not really about any issue at all, except trying to get revenge and trying to make everybody miserable. And to give them credit, they're pretty darn good at that. So what are Republicans going to investigate? Well, they've actually set up a committee headed by Jim Jordan, a member of the Republican Pedophile Caucus, and who's going to be heading the House Judiciary Committee, allegedly. And the role of this committee is to investigate the government. Supposedly, this is going to be a committee akin to the Church Commission, which was implemented after Watergate. But the Church Commission, like the January 6th committee, were actually based upon some facts, some real crises that occurred in the government that needed to be investigated with an aim of making sure it didn't happen again. What does Jordan want to investigate? Well, that's not really clear. Pretty much anything he wants to is the mandate of the committee. But in particular, it's supposed to investigate efforts to target conservative voices by the government. My guess is that the genesis of this idea is way back during the Obama administration when the IRS was accused of targeting conservative groups who were trying to get nonprofit status. It caused quite the scandal if you don't remember it. But an investigation by the Inspector General, which was released in 2017 when, who was president in 2017? Wasn't Obama, I think. But at any rate, that investigation revealed that the IRS was not just targeting conservative voices, it was targeting all political voices, which actually makes sense. A political organization is not generally one that is entitled to nonprofit status under Section 501c3 of the IRS Code. So the IRS was generally looking for political organizations to see if they might be violating the rules of the law governing nonprofit organizations. It wasn't just conservative groups. They're the only ones who complained about it. And that's really what we're seeing. A lot of noise and complaining, whining by rich, white, straight, male Republicans. Conservatives who claim, oh, poor me. I don't get to abuse everybody the way I have throughout the rest of history in the United States. We're actually living in a society now where people face consequences for doing things like white police officers shooting black people, or powerful Hollywood producers using their influence to sexually abuse young starlets. Yes, God forbid that rich, white, straight men be held accountable for their behavior. Because being held accountable when you're rich, white, straight, and male is just not something that's done in America. I mean, remember that poor swimmer from Stanford who raped somebody and was basically let to go free, yet is facing any kind of accountability that they believe is targeting them. And what's especially telling is that they're not looking at targeting all political voices. They're just looking at targeting conservative political voices. In other words, they really aren't trying to protect freedom of speech generally. They're just trying to protect their own freedom of speech. Kind of like what they're doing at Twitter now, by the way. I find it especially rich, by the way, that you have these Republicans complaining about the weaponization of government when the king of weaponizing government was Donald Trump. I mean, he went so far as to try to get the military to court-martial retired officers who are critical of his administration. I don't know how you get much more weaponized than that. But you'll hear nothing about any of that from any of these committees, that's for sure. And as proof that this is not actually aimed at improving government ethics or at rooting out wrongdoing, another of the first actions that were taken by the House Republicans was to weaken the Office of Congressional Ethics. So spare me the BS that this is some effort to try to bring integrity to government. This is just another McCarthy committee that the Republicans are setting up to try to scare anybody who's at all critical of them. And just to show how ridiculous these investigations are going to be, check out this tweet here from Republican Representative Andy Biggs. He says, the Biden family highly concerns me. Joe Hunter and even Dr., note the quotation marks, Jill. They are compromised and must be investigated. And yet, isn't it funny, had no such concerns over the Trump family, who all worked for the government and made millions while they were doing it, while Hunter and Dr. Jill have never worked for the government. And I find this outrage over Dr. Jill being called doctor, which is what she is, as a result of having completed a doctorate in education, because I think it's a matter of a contrast between her and the prior First Lady, whose greatest claim to fame was that she was a pornography model. God forbid we actually have a First Lady who's an impressive individual. Oh yes, I remember we had one of those two back in the administration before that. Remember Michelle? At any rate, if you're wondering about all the smoke that you've been hearing about these different investigations, why don't you check out this video I did over here a little while ago, where I talk about the facts behind the whole Hunter Biden situation. This video will give you responses to those people who spew the BS about, oh, what about Hunter Biden, whenever you bring up anything about the Trump family and their criminal behavior. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.